Let me just say my piece first thing.
Go ahead.
Let me just tell Leafs Nation, there's ugly losses, and I think Noodles, you were on the St. Louis Blues when they came back from a 5-0 win.
People are shouting me out on that. I'd have
anyway, you might not have been there, but it was a bump in the road. It was a horrific loss. You can't lose to the worst team when you're up 5-1. They did all the stupid things. They gave the puck away. They didn't finish the game. They stopped playing. Blah, blah, blah. Bad goaltending. Throw it all together. But can't for once in this town, we just take a step back and say we have the best record in the National Hockey League. It's a bump on the road, and let's let it be that. Like, everybody has bad games. The Red Wings back in the 90s, they would have a stinker like that, but they moved on from it. Instead of just saying this team sucks and we got to trade Nylander, we got to trade Tavares, can't we cut that crap out for once in our life? Or
I'll tell you why that's not going to happen.
I know that's not why it's not going to happen is because so many times in the past people have been disappointed. And you've talked about it, Hayes. 12 points in, 9 games left, they end up 12 points out. But they have the best record in the league. Can we not freak out just this one time? Well, and if I'm the voice of reason, there's a serious problem.
Here's why that is going to happen. Not for everyone. You know, some people will look at it, and I tend to lean towards where you're at. It's one game. It'll be forgotten by the end of the week if they win Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday in Montreal. It's completely irrelevant. All of a sudden you look at it, you're like, they still got a point, and they got 7 of 8 points this week. It's all good. But when guys like us and others and fans throughout Leafs Nation continue to say everything about this season is about building for something in the future, then of course they're going to apply that same logic and that same reaction, because what that was last night was a complete meltdown and a choke job. And it's PTSD for Leaf fans because it exposed every concern over the course of 20 minutes and 10 seconds. They're up 5-1 with 10 seconds to go, and then all of a sudden you've got Freddie can't close, check. Bad attention to detail, check. Brutal defensive play, check. Playing down to your competition, check. Like, that's what it is.
Right.
That's the reaction. You're like, wait a minute, we've seen this before. Does this mean come May, when they're in the playoffs, they're not going to learn from past mistakes? That's why you're getting the reaction. It doesn't have to matter, and it won't by Sunday. They pick themselves up off the mat, win Wednesday, win Thursday, you move on. If they wax Ottawa tomorrow night, don't you just say, okay, we're forgetting about that. And there is some things to pick out, and there are some areas of concern. The second line, John Tavares and William Nylander, they got to play better than what they're playing. They can't pop in every 5 games or 7 games and have even strength scoring to help the team win. Because come playoff time, you're right, Hayes, that nonsense isn't going to fly. As good as Matthews and as good as Marner are, you're not going to win if it's just a 2-man show and it's like, okay, we're going to score the goals and nobody else is going to contribute. So those guys got to pull their heads out of their asses. They got to play better. They're paid to play better. They got to play better because the team needs them to be better. But if they have a performance, like I thought in Montreal, when they gave up the first goal, they showed strides. It's like, okay, these guys are growing up a little bit. There's some maturity in this win. Where times in the past it would have been, this game ends up 5-0 and it's an embarrassment and we're losing our minds on this show. But I just don't think after this one they still have the best record in the league. Best record in the league.
Not winning percentage, but best record, yes. Like they're fifth in winning percentage.
We're nitpicking.
Not nitpicking.
We're
I'm
8
saying
minutes
like
in. We're going to nitpick.
Sorry, Al's brother. I did not have the winning percentage down.
Come on now.
I'm just saying if they anyways, point being, here's where I'm at. I see both sides, but the question mark that I've been posed several times is, has this group maturity level changed? Well, the cast of characters is the same. They've changed the older players around, and those are the guys that have helped to bridge that. It hasn't. Has it changed or has it not? That was asked of me today.
By
I don't
who?
know. What do you mean by who?
Like just fans you're talking about in general?
And back and forth with a couple people today.
That's a question.
The maturity
that I think is
level of
legitimate.
who? The core people that have been here the longest time, the Matthews, Marner, Nylander types?
The group is that core. What they did is they brought in veteran guys to help, bridge, ease, all of that, the maturity level. That's all we've been talking about this group, the maturity level. You just mentioned, give up the first goal against Montreal. They don't panic. They come back. They keep going. Like, have you seen a change of it? I think I personally have seen strides in it.
Yeah, I don't think after one game you can completely change the narrative, Jamie, and say, these guys are still immature. They're floating around. They're acting like they don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know if after one game you can completely change it. If you want to do that and fly off the handle, go ahead and do it. I'm just not doing it. I've done it too many times in 10 years.
Well, again, to make my earlier point, that we'll have an answer on that, Noodles, at the end of the playoff run.
Right.
Because maturity is ultimately about moving in the right direction and understanding the moment. I do think, and I understand where Leaf fans are coming at this from, myself included, there was a hope, and it's still available to them, that they would be one of those juggernaut teams that just never hits a bump in the road. Very rare in the history of sports where you see that. But they've lost twice to Ottawa, like 2 times to Ottawa. Ottawa's 4 wins. 2 of them are against Toronto, and it's twice we've done this in a month where you're like, man, that one got away from you. What happened there? Which I think, again, is just more frustrating and disappointing than anything else. Doesn't have to mean anything big picture. Nothing changed last night in terms of where they're going in the regular season. Nothing. That 1 point is going to be irrelevant more than likely by the end of the year, and they can get up off the mat. I think they win tomorrow. I think they win Thursday. And you walk away with 7 of 8 or 5 or 6 points against Ottawa, and you gear up and you see where you're at on Saturday. But all these overarching questions are going to get answered in multiple ways during the regular season because you ride the wave, and that's what comes with sports, and that's a part of the beauty of following a team. But the answers that we're really waiting for will not be available for 3 or 4 months. And that's
regular season isn't going to your point, Brian, regular season isn't going to matter. It's what they're going to do in the first round of the playoffs and further if they can get there. And that's when we'll test the maturity and the resolve of this group and all of the boxes that you were just talking about, Freddie, and all of that. It's a one-off. I agree. I think, to your point, do these one-offs happen? When they happen, they're bigger, if that makes sense. David Ayers and you know what I mean? Like they're bigger because everything in Leafland is so loud.
We're bringing up the goalie now.
Oh, you know it's coming because I'm sure you guys saw what I was dealing with last night on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that.
This is recency bias 101. This should be bottled and sent to every university around the world, and every freshman
I think
class
I know
should
what
have
you're
to
talking about.
learn this.
When someone said to you, this is worse than the backup
Worse
goalie.
than David Ayers beating the Maple Leafs. It is not in the same stratosphere as that loss for so many different reasons. First and foremost, they still got a point last night. Secondly, they're still in first place, and that was technically a goalie that had Ottawa Senator gear on last night that beat them 6-5. The David Ayers game will never be touched in the history of sports.
No.
Like, it will never be even pierced.
It's the Hockey Hall. It's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, that game, for the wrong reasons. It's the most unbelievable thing you'll ever see.
It's the most embarrassing loss in the history of this franchise. Period. End of story. 4-1 in Boston is less embarrassing than David Ayers in Leaf gear, who was riding a Zamboni at the Ricoh Center earlier that day, beating them in the third period. Nothing can touch that. The guy was on Good Morning America the next day. He became a celebrity basically because the Leafs were such an embarrassment.
Well,
like, nothing can ever touch that. Ever.
They just put up your Twitter feed to say get serious. So you're of the belief, which is fine, and I agree 100%, by the way, 100%. Because the Senators, as I've been saying along, and I even heard Gordon Ray say it last night on the broadcast, had their goaltenders played like they played the last 5 out of 6 games type of thing, they might have more points. They might have more wins. They had a really rough start. They had 7 games on the road. They couldn't get a save. They couldn't get defensive zone coverage. Like, you're right. I thought personally that game was going to be an 8-2 last night. I personally thought at 5-1, I was like, Matthew's going to get a hat trick. Marner's going to get a couple more. I think Nylander and Tavares is going to get off the schneid. Like, this is going to be one of those. Like, that seemed to me like that was going to be point night. At 5-1.
It already was, Noodles. You put 5 on the board halfway through the second period. It's point night.
Ottawa, they didn't show up. Ottawa didn't play well. Like, first period, I was like, look how easily they're getting into the zone, the entries. It was so easy for Toronto. I'm like, this one's going to get ugly. And it kind of did, basically.
Well, the thing is, what happened last night is it's an out-of-body experience to recap a game like that, because at the time you don't necessarily put a ton of weight into two different plays. And the Tavares giveaway at the end of the second period was so bad, like awful giveaway, inexcusable for a rookie on a PTO. Terrible. Happens sometimes, but terrible. But when it's 5-2 against Ottawa, I didn't even make a mental note. I'm like, who cares? Whatever.
Yeah.
Then it's 5-3, and you're like, oh, that was an interesting giveaway. 5-4, wow, this is really
that
quite
was
something.
the Chia Pets of giveaways, because it just kept growing and
Exactly.
growing and growing and growing. You're like, oh, look at that Chia Pet giveaway. That was a really big Chia Pet giveaway.
By the end of the game, it's massive. It's the largest dog on earth. And that's exactly what it did. And John Tavares, I think, has more of a spotlight on him today than any other player on the team, because he factored in to the beginning of the demise of the team effectively.
Right.
He's the captain, making $11 million a year, not playing that well, and he's got to own that. Like, John Tavares just simply, we all know he's got to be better. I believe he will. I have full faith in the abilities of John Tavares, but he had a great start to the year. I liked his play.
Job.
I liked he was engaged. He looked good. He's skating well. The past handful of games, he's off.
He's off, and his line mate's
right
off too. But the question is, and there's all different kinds of things that coaches can do to kind of motivate you. A, they can switch up lines. B, they can take ice time away from both of the players. They can take ice time away from one of the players. One of the guys can drag their lip around and be all sad, or they can just put something different there. They can elevate Nylander maybe up to the top line. Or do you do something drastic where you say, this is for the greater good, like we got to move Mitch Marner down there to play with John Tavares? Or do you say, John Tavares, the hell with that, you're going to fix this yourself, and Nylander, you're right beside him, and you're going to fix it as well?
It's a good question, because I think you're going to see change over the course of the season anyway. You know, I think Matthews and Marner, they're committed to that. I think they should be. I'm a believer in that pairing. How could you be against it based on the way they've played? I do believe at some point when the chips are down, playoff time, Tavares and Nylander are also going to have to play together. Like, they're going to have to find a way to make that work, in my opinion, just based on their talent level, based on the likelihood of you being in a big game where you're down a goal or two and you're probably almost double shifting and you need your big boys going. You need to rely on them to connect. But I do think there will likely be some sort of mixing and matching with this team, and it might revolve around those two players. You know, I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow night, but yeah, I think it's more than reasonable to expect Sheldon Keefe to look at that pairing and saying, something's not right at this given time. So who do you move? I guess you can move Mikheyev around. Maybe you can move Kerfoot around. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
It's starting to look a little different than not just playing well. It looks like somebody might be a little bit bent out of shape or something. I don't know if it's one of them that's not in that top power play unit. I really don't know what it is, but I can like my dad would always tell me when he's watching something, whether it be a team struggling, he'd say there's something wrong there, more than just they're playing like crap or they're a crap team. It looks like something's a little off. Somebody might be bent out of shape. I don't know what it is, but that's the sense I get from watching.
Yeah, I sense the same thing, but if it's one of those two players, and I believe that's who we're talking about,
right,
they got to snap out of it.
No kidding.
Like you're paid that. You're a professional. You've been in the league for a long time, both of you, and you're paid a lot of money. And the expectations are high. Forget the money. You are very high-quality players, and your team needs you. Forget the fans. Forget the media. You know, eventually it's going to come down to 18 guys are going out, and can they get the job done? Can they find, can they get in sync and connect properly? And a lot of times this year they have done that in the right areas. Defensively they've been a lot better. They're in a good spot. This is not Rome is burning territory at all.
No,
but we keep coming back to May 15th. That's when the dance starts. Are they going to be in a position to go on a long run? Because that's what everyone is craving in this town. And there are a handful of questions that continue to be brought up, and they've all got to materialize if you want to win a Stanley Cup.